You rest, letting the room around you fade. The air grows soft, your body grows still, and in the hush of this quiet moment, you imagine space stretching out above you. It is vast, unbroken, and unhurried, like a calm ocean without shore. It surrounds you, endless and patient. And in this stillness, one question floats gently to the surface of your mind. Are we the only ones here? It is a question older than history, whispered in the dark by those who once looked at the stars, without knowing what they were. A question carved into myths, painted on cave walls, told by firelight, and asked again in observatories filled with polished glass and humming machines. The question lingers, timeless, as constant as the stars themselves. Is someone else out there, looking back? You breathe slowly, and the breath itself becomes a rhythm, like the heartbeat of the cosmos. Inhale. You feel the weight of all that exists. Exhale. You release yourself into wonder. And in this gentle rhythm, you begin to see the universe not as empty, but as alive with possibility. Consider this. The universe contains more stars than there are grains of sand on every beach of Earth. Each star may carry its own family of planets, circling patiently in silence. Some may be hot and violent, others cold and frozen, and some, perhaps, may be like our Earth, with oceans that sparkle, skies that change, and surfaces that remember the touch of life. When you think of it this way, the silence does not feel like loneliness. It feels like a pause, a deep breath before an answer. You drift further into this thought. Imagine yourself standing on a quiet beach at night. The waves move in and out, their rhythm steady and eternal. Above you, the sky glimmers with constellations. You cannot see the creatures that may swim in faraway seas or the beings that may walk beneath unfamiliar suns. But the possibility hums, low and steady, like the tide. The ocean does not need to show you its hidden depths for you to know they are there. So too, the universe does not need to reveal its secrets all at once. Its silence is not denial. It is invitation. Still, the quiet is powerful. For generations, humanity has listened. We have raised telescopes to the sky, sent probes into the dark, and released signals like messages in bottles across the cosmic sea. We listen with ears of metal and eyes of glass, searching for the faintest reply, and yet nothing answers. The stars twinkle, but they do not speak. The galaxies swirl, but they remain distant. The silence grows heavy, pressing softly against your chest. But in that silence, something curious happens. Instead of despair, you feel awe. The quiet is not emptiness, it is spaciousness. It is room for your thoughts to wander, for your imagination to stretch. It is the space where science begins, not in certainty, but in the gentle trembling of a question. And you find comfort in the idea that the question itself has value, even if the answer hides. You let your mind wander back through time to the early Earth. 4 billion years ago, the world was not quiet. It boiled, it stormed, it churned with energy. And from that restless chaos, life found a way to appear. Small, simple, unseen, but alive. If life could rise from such a turbulent beginning here, perhaps it could elsewhere. Perhaps other worlds carry their own tiny beginnings, waiting for time to weave them into something greater. And if life can begin, then perhaps intelligence can also awaken. minds that wonder, voices that ask the same question you now ask. Are we alone? As you drift in this thought, you notice how the question itself mirrors your breath. It expands and contracts, wide as the universe, close as your own heart. Every culture, every age has carried it. The philosophers, the scientists, the poets, all looked upward and wondered. The question belongs not only to astronomy, but to being human. It ties you to everyone who has ever gazed at the stars with curiosity, and perhaps, you think, it ties you to those who may be out there, too. If aliens exist, perhaps they also ask. Perhaps they sit beneath their own constellations, wondering if intelligence is rare or common. Perhaps they too feel the same mix of loneliness and wonder. And if so, then, across the gulf of space, you and they share something already. You share the quiet question. You feel your body sink deeper into rest as this thought grows gentle. Whether the universe is crowded with life or silent, except for us, the wonder remains. Because even in the absence of proof, the possibility changes how you see the stars. They are not distant lights anymore. They are doors, unopened, waiting. The night carries you further. The stars above are patient. They have burned for billions of years and will burn for billions more. In that patience, there is no rush to answer. The question can linger, soft and steady, like a lullaby repeated without end. And you realize that maybe the value is not in reaching the answer, but in living with the question, in letting it stretch your mind wide and calm. The silence of the cosmos does not frighten you now. It comforts you, like a blanket woven of starlight and time. It reminds you that your own small life is part of something vast, intricate, and ongoing. And as your breathing slows, you sense that you are already part of the story you seek. For in asking, in listening, you have joined the great conversation of existence, whether or not others reply. The question rests with you now, calm and enduring. It is a companion rather than a burden, a soft glow in the darkness. It does not need to be solved tonight, or even in your lifetime. It only needs to be held, like a fragile stone in your palm, polished by wonder. And as you drift toward deeper rest, you feel the next thought rising, gentle and steady. There are so many stars, so many planets, so many chances. Then perhaps the universe is not just a silence, but a garden of worlds, scattered across the dark, waiting to be discovered. Close your eyes and drift outward again, beyond the room, beyond Earth, into a vast expanse scattered with light. The stars shine not as distant decorations, but as beginnings. Each one is more than fire. Each one is a seed of possibility. And like seeds scattered by the wind across a meadow, these stars release their planets into orbit, worlds that might one day carry life. You picture it this way, a dark field, stretching farther than sight. Into that field fall seeds, bright, spinning, weightless. Some land in harsh places where nothing can grow. Some land in soil too thin, too dry, too hot. But a few fall where the conditions are right, where water can pool and energy can flow. There, the seed may awaken. There, a planet may flourish. Astronomers call these worlds exoplanets, planets beyond our solar system. For most of human history, we could only imagine them. We knew the stars were far away, and we guessed they might carry worlds of their own. But we had no proof. Now, with telescopes sharp enough to measure the faint dimming of starlight as a planet passes before its star, we know the truth. The universe is full of planets. More planets, in fact, than stars. That thought reshapes the sky. When you look upward, you no longer see only points of light. You see families of worlds circling each star. You see systems, each one a garden with its own conditions, its own patterns of growth or stillness. You realize that the universe is not only vast, but fertile. Take a breath and imagine drifting toward one star. Around it whirl several planets. One is scorched by heat, its rocks cracked, its surface bare. Another is cloaked in gas, storms roaring across it endlessly. And then, perhaps, one lies in the habitable zone, a place where temperatures allow liquid water to flow, where chemistry may weave into biology. This planet waits, like soil that may or may not give rise to life. You cannot yet see what lives there, if anything, but the possibility alone makes the mind expand, the way the horizon widens when you step into an open field. Scientists estimate that in our galaxy alone, there may be billions of planets in this habitable zone, billions of chances for oceans, skies, and landscapes as varied as dreams. When you let that number sink in, the question shifts. It is no longer only, are we alone? It becomes, on how many worlds has life already stirred? You pause here, resting in the scale of it. Numbers this large do not demand urgency. They invite reflection. They remind you that the universe is not a narrow stage, but a boundless wilderness. Life, as you know it, requires only a few ingredients: liquid water, a source of energy, and the right mix of elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. These are not rare jewels. They are among the most common substances in the cosmos. Stars forge them, scatter them, and planets gather them. You realize that the materials of life are not unique to Earth. They are everywhere, waiting for the right conditions to combine. The thought steadies you. If the elements are common, if planets are countless, then the chance of life beyond Earth begins to feel less like a dream and more like a statistical certainty. Perhaps not. Every seed grows, but among so many, surely some take root. You drift now into an image, a forest after rain. Seeds that had rested in silence now begin to sprout. Some break the soil and wither quickly. Others rise, reach, and endure. Life on other planets may be just as fragile, beginning and ending in cycles unseen by us. But among billions of worlds, the possibility of enduring life feels strong. Still, you remind yourself, possibility does not equal presence. We have not yet found proof of life elsewhere. Our telescopes see planets, but not their oceans, not their creatures, not their voices. The field is vast, and though we scatter our gaze across it, we have only begun to search. This uncertainty does not close the question. It leaves it open, spacious, alive with potential. You breathe with the rhythm of this thought. Seeds may rest for years before they awaken. Worlds may wait for billions of years before life stirs. And so the search, too, may take time. To seek is itself a form of growth. Like tending a garden whose sprouts you cannot yet see. as you sink deeper into rest. You picture the Milky Way as a grand orchard, filled with stars and planets, like trees heavy with unseen fruit. We wander among them, reaching, tasting the air, waiting for signs of sweetness. Perhaps one day, a signal will come, or a telescope will glimpse the shimmer of oxygen in an alien sky, a signature of life breathing. That day has not yet arrived, but the orchard is vast, and we are still at the beginning of the path. You let the thought soften, even if no proof comes in your lifetime. The vision of countless seeds already changes the way you rest beneath the stars. You no longer see a cold void. You see potential spread across light years. You feel part of a universe that experiments endlessly, trying combinations, shaping patterns, scattering possibilities. You understand that even if Earth is unique in its song of life, it sings within a choir of planets that might someday join in. And so you return to the question. Every star is a seed, every planet a garden waiting. The universe is not barren, but creative, scattering opportunities across its endless expanse. You are here, among them, listening, wondering, imagining. And as your thoughts drift like seeds on the wind, another idea arises. If life can begin on these scattered worlds, what path might it take once it starts? Would it always remain simple, like moss on stone, or could it rise, over eons, into minds that wonder, into beings that ask the same questions you now hold? You rest deeper into stillness, as if sinking into the memory of the earth itself. Not the earth of today, with forests, rivers, and skies filled with birdsong, but an earth unimaginably older, a world without grass, without trees, without animals, an earth where the oceans were dark and restless, where the air was thick with gases strange to your lungs, where lightning split the sky and volcanoes poured fire into the seas. It is in this raw, unsettled world that life first appeared. You picture it not as a grand event, but as something small, almost hidden, not a roar, but a spark, not a creature with limbs or eyes, but a cluster of molecules that discovered how to dance together. Scientists call this moment abiogenesis, the rise of life from non-living matter. The exact details remain a mystery, but the outlines are known. In the primordial oceans, rich with chemical ingredients, simple molecules combined, split apart, and combined again. Energy from sunlight, from lightning, from the Earth's own heat fueled their experiments. Most patterns dissolved back into randomness, but a few endured, repeating themselves, protecting their structures, copying their shapes. And in those repetitions, in those patterns that lasted, the earliest life emerged. You imagine a droplet of water suspended on the surface of a volcanic pool. Inside it, strands of molecules curl and twist, interacting in ways new to the planet. One strand copies itself, breaking into two. Another strand forms a boundary, a thin wall like the skin of a bubble. These bubbles grow, divide, scatter. Each one holds a tiny, fragile order within the vast disorder. This is life in its first form, not complex, not conscious, but persistent. A flame that will not be extinguished. When you breathe now, you breathe with lungs shaped by billions of years of this persistence. Every cell in your body is a descendant of those early molecules, their survival etched into your DNA. Your blood carries iron forged in ancient stars, but the way your body organizes that iron, the way it builds proteins and fuels thought, that story begins here, in the first sparks of life on Earth. The oceans of that early world became laboratories filled with uncountable experiments. Some failed, dissolving back into chemical soup. Others endured, learning to use energy from sunlight, to store it, to pass it on. Cyanobacteria, small and unseen, began to breathe out oxygen, reshaping the very atmosphere. The air you now inhale, calm and steady, carries their signature. They prepared the stage for everything that followed. You picture time passing, not in years, but in waves, wave after wave of simple organisms rising, spreading, adapting, each one fragile on its own, yet unstoppable in their vast numbers. For nearly 3 billion years, life remained simple, microscopic, unseen by any eye. And yet, in that span, the groundwork was laid. Cells learned to cooperate, to merge, to specialize. The great unfolding was slow, but it never stopped. There is something soothing in this patience. You live in a world of rapid change, of days that pass quickly. But life itself teaches you another rhythm, one measured not in hours, but in epochs. When you let yourself rest in that rhythm, you sense a deeper calm. You understand that life does not hurry, it endures. The beauty of this beginning is that it may not be unique. If Earth's oceans could give rise to living chemistry, then perhaps oceans on other worlds can as well. Perhaps beneath the icy crust of Europa, Jupiter's moon, hidden seas carry their own experiments. Perhaps methane lakes on Titan nurture patterns unlike anything on Earth. Perhaps across the galaxy, molecules find ways to organize, to copy, to persist, not identical to us, not familiar, but alive. You drift in the thought that life is both fragile and inevitable. Fragile because a small change in Earth's history, a different tilt of orbit, a longer storm, a greater impact from space, might have ended the experiment before it began. Inevitable because the chemistry of life is built from elements that fill the cosmos: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. They are not rare jewels. They are the dust of stars, available everywhere. And when conditions allow, they reach for one another, forming chains, forming structures, forming beginnings. You breathe again, and in the slow rise and fall of your chest, you feel this pattern. Life is not a sudden miracle, but a process, unfolding step by step. And even though the details of Earth's first spark remain hidden, the story it tells is one of possibility. Life can arise from non-life. Order can bloom out of chaos. Something can appear where before there was nothing. This truth carries you further into rest, because it means that the story of life is not locked to Earth alone. It is written into the universe itself. Wherever the right conditions exist, the story can begin again. You picture other worlds, distant but real. Some may still be waiting, their seas only beginning to swirl with chemical possibility. Some may already hold microscopic life, patient and unnoticed. Some may have lost their chance, their oceans dried or frozen, their seeds never sprouting. And yet, across such vast numbers of worlds, you wonder, how many have already crossed the threshold? How many have felt that same first spark, that same shift from chemistry to biology. As the thought deepens, another question begins to take shape. Life itself may not be rare, but what of intelligence? What of minds that wonder, that imagine, that build, that search the stars as you now do? Does the path from molecule to consciousness always unfold? Or is intelligence a rare flowering, fragile, and fleeting amid the broader forest of simple life? You rest on this edge, suspended between two truths. Life is patient and resilient, found in the smallest beginnings. But the leap to awareness, that is another story, one still uncertain. And so the chapter closes, not with certainty, but with the soft rise of the next question. If life begins so simply, so persistently, then what allows it to rise further? What allows it to open its eyes, to think, to speak, to dream? You drift now from the first spark of life toward something more mysterious. Simple organisms may be common, scattered across oceans and soils, thriving in silence. But the leap from simple survival to thinking, imagining, and questioning is another matter entirely. Not all life reaches this threshold. On Earth, for billions of years, life remained microscopic. Even when creatures grew larger, intelligence did not appear everywhere. It emerged only in rare lineages, like an occasional flame flickering higher than the rest. You pause and imagine the ocean, teeming with creatures that move, feed, reproduce. For most of them, instinct is enough. They do not need to ponder the stars to survive. They need only to respond, to light, to sound, to the tug of hunger. Their existence flows with the rhythm of environment and need. But among this multitude, some begin to sense more. A fish learns not just to flee, but to remember. An insect begins to navigate, not only by scent, but by strategy. Tiny sparks of awareness appear, scattered and brief. And then, slowly, across time, a new capacity unfolds. The ability to imagine what is not directly seen. This is the root of intelligence. The power to model the world within, to carry an inner landscape that guides choices. With this capacity, survival no longer depends only on reaction. It grows from anticipation, memory, and foresight. You rest in this thought, picturing the human brain. It is not the largest organ in the animal kingdom, nor the heaviest, yet its network is astonishing. Billions of neurons, each one a thread, forming connections in patterns too vast to fully map. Each thought you hold is not a single note, but a chorus, played by circuits firing in harmony. The brain is like a lighthouse, casting beams into the unknown, illuminating what lies beyond immediate perception. But intelligence did not appear only in humans. On Earth, ravens solve puzzles with insight. Octopuses slip through mazes, unscrewing jars with nimble arms. Elephants mourn their dead, their memories stretching across decades. Whales sing in patterns, songs that carry across oceans. Intelligence has many shapes, expressed in ways that suit each life. Some minds calculate, others navigate, others remember or create. The variety suggests that the seeds of intelligence can sprout in multiple forms, though rarely do they reach the complexity of human thought. You wonder, why? Why did humans, among all species, develop minds capable of language, art, mathematics, and spacefaring dreams? Why here? Why now, and not elsewhere sooner? The question has no single answer. Perhaps it was the pressure of changing climates, forcing flexibility. Perhaps it was the cooperative nature of early communities, rewarding communication. Perhaps it was chance, a path that could have vanished if history had shifted by even a fraction. The thought humbles you. Intelligence, so central to your experience, is not an inevitable outcome of life. It may be an accident, a rare flowering in the long garden of biology. You realize that even if the universe teems with simple organisms, minds like yours may be scarce, and that scarcity makes each conscious moment feel precious. Like a rare gem found among countless stones, your body sinks deeper into rest as you follow this thread. Imagine, far across the galaxy, a planet where life began but remained simple, never progressing beyond microbial forms. Imagine another, where creatures grew large and varied, but none developed memory beyond instinct. Imagine a third, where intelligence did arise, but a disaster erased it before it could build tools, before it could leave evidence behind. The possibilities are endless, yet the path to a mind that wonders may be narrow. This is the riddle of intelligence. If life is common, why is self-awareness rare? Why does the ability to ask questions, this ability you now embody, flicker into being so rarely, across so many billions of years and so many countless worlds? And yet there is another way to see it. Perhaps intelligence is not a peak that few can climb, but a river that flows in many directions. Perhaps whales, birds, elephants, and humans are all branches of the same current, exploring different forms of awareness. Perhaps alien life, if it exists, may not think as you do, but still hold rich ways of perceiving and understanding. You cannot measure intelligence only by mirrors of yourself. The thought soothes you. You realize that intelligence is not a single ladder with one highest rung, but a spectrum of possibilities. It is memory, problem-solving, communication, creativity, empathy. It is the song of a bird, the tool of a primate, the map in a honeybee's dance. Your own form of intelligence is only one expression among many, and yet the question returns. How often does this capacity reach the point of civilization, of technology, of the ability to send signals across space? How often does intelligence not only exist but also endure long enough to reach the stars? The thought lingers, unhurried, drawing you further inward. You breathe in, sensing the fragility of this path. Your ancestors lived through countless near extinctions, volcanoes, impacts. If even one of these had ended differently, perhaps intelligence on Earth would never have risen to its present form. And then the night sky would look the same. But no one here would be asking questions of it. The riddle remains unresolved. Perhaps intelligence is rare, and humanity is among the first sparks in a vast and mostly silent universe. Or perhaps intelligence blooms more often than you imagine, scattered across galaxies, each form unique, each mind shaped by its own world. The truth waits beyond your sight, hidden among the stars. As you drift further into rest, you hold this paradox in your thoughts. You are rare, yet perhaps not alone. You are fragile, yet your mind stretches beyond your body, reaching into the cosmos. You are one intelligence among possibly many, a lighthouse beam sweeping the darkness in search of another. And as the light of that thought fades into calm, a new wonder rises. If intelligence does appear elsewhere, if other minds exist in the universe, then why do we not hear them? Why does the sky, vast and filled with stars, remain silent? You lie beneath the weight of the sky, and you feel the distance stretch outward. The stars are countless, each one burning with ancient fire. Some have planets circling them, worlds unseen but certain in their presence. You imagine oceans, mountains, and skies on those faraway spheres. You imagine life stirring, reaching, wondering, and yet, when you listen, there is nothing, no message, no whisper, no trace, only the silence. This silence has a name. It is called the Fermi paradox, the great contradiction between the vastness of possibilities and the absence of evidence. Mathematics tells you there should be countless civilizations. The universe is old enough, large enough, rich enough, and yet, as your radios scan the sky, as your telescopes stretch their vision, nothing answers. No signal interrupts the static. No star blinks with intention. You let the paradox rest in your mind. It feels like standing on a shore where waves should crash, but the ocean is still. It feels like waiting in a crowded hall that remains deserted. This emptiness is not only absence, it is a riddle. Some suggest the answer lies in distance. Perhaps others are out there, but the gulf of space is too wide. Signals weaken, scatter, dissolve. Even light, fast as it is, takes years to cross the spaces between stars. Perhaps their messages fade before they reach us, dissolving into cosmic background, indistinguishable from noise. Or perhaps they have not yet reached us at all. A signal sent 1,000 years ago may still be mid-journey, crossing only a fraction of the galactic sea. Others imagine time as the barrier. Civilizations may rise, flourish, and vanish, their lifespans a brief flicker. If they broadcast their presence for only a short window, we may simply miss them. They may have lived millions of years ago, long before Earth's species began to wander. Or they may appear millions of years in the future, long after humanity has passed. The silence may not mean there is no one, but only that our moments do not overlap. You reflect on fragility. A species might destroy itself before it spreads. Fire, war, famine, or the limits of its own planet may close the door. Technology, while powerful, carries risk. The same tools that build can unmake. Perhaps this is a universal truth. Intelligence carries seeds of its own undoing. If so, then silence may be the echo of civilizations that did not endure. There is another possibility. Perhaps others are here, but choose not to speak. Like shadows in a forest, they remain unseen, not because they are absent, but because they hide. Maybe they watch, waiting, cautious of revealing themselves. Or perhaps they know the danger of broadcasting, fearing predators in the dark expanse of space. In this vision, the silence is deliberate, a choice to remain unseen. You breathe into this thought. Imagine Earth as a single campfire in the wilderness, glowing in darkness. To light a fire is to signal presence. Who might see it? Friends or hunters? If you were out there, would you announce yourself, or would you remain hidden? The silence may be caution, not emptiness. And yet, there is another layer still. What if they do speak, but we do not recognize the language? Perhaps their signals are woven in patterns we overlook, in frequencies we do not search. Perhaps they use methods of communication beyond our imagination, ways of sharing that do not resemble sound or light. A whale does not understand the internet, though it swims through oceans filled with human voices. Perhaps we are like that, immersed in signals, yet unable to perceive them. This thought brings you to humility. You sense how small our understanding still is. We are beginners, just learning to listen. We build antennas, point dishes at the sky, and hope for recognition. But the cosmos may be speaking in a dialect too vast, too subtle, or too alien for us to decode. The silence may not be silence at all, but in comprehension the Fermi silence opens a mirror, reflecting back on humanity itself. Perhaps the absence of others invites you to ask, what does it mean to be alone? Aloneness is not emptiness, it is awareness of your own presence. To stand in the universe and hear no answer is to realize that your voice, your story, your fragile spark matters deeply. If there is no one else, then your responsibility grows. If there are many, then your wonder expands. Either way, the silence is not despair, but invitation to reflect, to question, to care for what you have here. You let this idea slow your thoughts. Silence, after all, has its own music. It allows you to listen more deeply, to hear the sound of your own breath, the rhythm of your own heart. In the cosmic stillness, humanity learns patience. The search continues, even if no answer comes. To seek is itself an act of connection. Consider the stars above you again. Each one may host planets, some barren, some alive. If you never hear from them, does that diminish their wonder? Or does it deepen it, reminding you that mystery is part of existence? The unknown is not a void to be filled, but a horizon to be contemplated. And still, the paradox endures. Why so much probability, yet no evidence? Why such abundance, yet such silence? The mind longs for resolution, but perhaps resolution is not the point. Perhaps the value lies in the question itself. For in asking, you learn to see your own world differently. Imagine again the galaxy, its spiral arms sweeping like rivers of light. Imagine each star as a lantern, each planet a possibility. The silence between them does not erase their presence. It only emphasizes the scale of your journey. You are a listener at the edge of a vast stage, waiting for the curtain to shift. Perhaps one day it will. A signal may arrive, faint and distant, but undeniable. A pattern too precise to be chance. A rhythm that says, we are here. That moment, if it comes, will transform everything. But until then, the silence remains a companion to your wonder. And so, you rest in it. You rest in the unspoken, in the unanswered. The silence is not empty. It is filled with possibility. It asks you to imagine, to hope, to stretch your mind beyond what is known. The paradox is not only a scientific puzzle, it is a meditation on existence. It reminds you that questions are as important as answers, that longing can be as nourishing as discovery, that silence can be a kind of presence. You breathe, and the thought softens. You are a seeker, listening across time and space. Perhaps others are seekers too, their ears turned toward the stars, also hearing only silence. And perhaps, in that shared waiting, there is already a kind of connection. But then another thought emerges. If the silence is so deep, perhaps the explanation is not distance or time, not caution or failure, but something stranger. Perhaps we do not hear because reality itself is arranged in ways we do not yet understand. Perhaps the mystery lies not only in the stars, but in the nature of existence itself. You drift in thought, and time becomes an ocean. Its waves move slowly, carrying centuries as though they are single drops of water. Within this vast tide, civilizations appear like sparks. They glow, brighten, and then vanish, leaving the night unchanged. From the vantage of the stars, history feels fragile, as if it is written on wind. On Earth, the pattern is familiar. You picture the great cities of the past, pyramids rising from desert sands, stone temples carved into mountains, roads stretching farther than the eye could follow. Each was once alive with voices, commerce, and song. Now, some stand in ruins, others erased almost completely, their memory preserved only through stories. Time does not rage against them, it simply moves on, indifferent to their ambitions. This rise and fall of human cultures is more than history, it is a lesson. Civilizations are living things as delicate as the organisms that build them. They need resources, stability, and vision. They can thrive, but they can also wither. You see them as fires in the night, glowing for a while, before fading into embers. If this is true on Earth, why would it not also be true among the stars? Perhaps other worlds, far away, once carried intelligent beings who built their own societies. Maybe they farmed valleys, forged tools, looked upward at constellations, and wondered as you do now. And perhaps their civilizations, too, collapsed. They might have fallen to drought, to hunger, to the exhaustion of their planet's gifts. Or they may have turned their power against themselves, their brilliance becoming their undoing. If so, then the silence you hear when listening to the universe is not proof of absence, only a reminder of impermanence. The rise of life's intelligence is improbable, but the endurance of civilizations may be even more precarious. For every species that climbs toward knowledge, how many hold their balance long enough to endure? The stars have existed for billions of years. Against that backdrop, even a civilization lasting tens of thousands of years would be only a breath. You realize how narrow the window may be for voices to echo across the galaxy. History on Earth shows both fragility and resilience. Rome seemed eternal, yet it fractured. The Mayans charted the heavens, but their cities fell into silence. And yet, new societies emerged elsewhere, carrying fragments of memory, adapting, building anew. Humanity itself is evidence that collapse does not always mean extinction. It may mean transformation, a change in form rather than complete erasure. Still, the lesson remains sobering. The achievements of civilizations are often vulnerable to forces beyond their control. Volcanoes bury cities, earthquakes flatten stone, shifts in climate redraw coastlines and alter harvests. A civilization's survival depends not only on wisdom, but also on chance. And chance is indifferent. You pause in your reflection. Think of the night sky above you, filled with stars that have witnessed uncountable stories. Perhaps some of those lights shine on worlds where civilizations once flourished. Perhaps now those worlds are silent, their monuments reduced to dust, their oceans swallowing their ruins. No signals escape their collapse, no voices cross the gulf. The universe remembers them only through the faint starlight that still travels outward. This thought brings you to the present. Humanity's own flame burns now, stretching outward, reaching for space. You wonder how durable this flame will be. Will it expand, becoming a fire that endures for thousands of generations? Or will it waver, challenged by the same fragility that haunts all civilizations? The question rests softly in your chest, not as fear, but as awareness. Awareness of the preciousness of this moment. Civilizations, like people, live within time. They dream of permanence, yet they are shaped by impermanence. This recognition is not despair, but perspective. For to see fragility is to understand value. You hold more dearly what you know can vanish. The fragility of civilizations teaches you to cherish the present, to cultivate wisdom, to avoid arrogance. It is a reminder that survival is not guaranteed, but also not impossible. The tools of knowledge offer both risk and salvation. Science gives power, the ability to harness energy, to heal, to travel, to see beyond the sky. But it also brings dangers, weapons, pollution, imbalance. A civilization's test may be whether it can use its tools with foresight, whether it can think not only of today, but of tomorrow, whether it can resist the temptation to consume without limit. These are the choices that shape endurance. You imagine alien civilizations facing the same trials. Perhaps many have failed, unable to overcome their own short-sightedness. Perhaps only a few have learned to sustain themselves long enough to endure, to spread, to reach the stars. Maybe the silence you hear is the silence of those who could not. If so, then endurance itself may be rare, more rare than life, more rare than intelligence. And yet, even in fragility, there is beauty. The fall of a civilization does not erase its meaning. Its art, its stories, its discoveries ripple forward, influencing what comes after. Even ruins carry whispers of lives lived, dreams dreamed. To be fragile is not to be worthless. It is to be part of a greater flow. You feel this truth within yourself. You, too, are fragile, yet your existence matters. Each breath, each thought, each kindness leaves an imprint. Civilizations, like individuals, leave echoes, some faint, some lasting, but all real. And so you float once more through the current of time. You see civilizations as sparks, not eternal, but luminous in their briefness. You see humanity's own spark, glowing now, vulnerable, but alive. The fragility is not an end, but an invitation to care, to reflect, to choose wisely. For the flame that flickers can also be protected, nurtured, carried forward. The silence of the stars may contain countless forgotten civilizations. But it may also remind you that your own flame is still burning. What you do with it matters. Perhaps the greatest act is not simply to survive, but to endure with meaning. You rest with this awareness, letting it settle into you like dusk settling over a landscape. The fragility of civilizations does not diminish the wonder of their existence. It heightens it. It reminds you that every act of building, every act of reaching is precious. And as your thoughts drift further outward, another question stirs. If civilizations rise and fall, if fragility is universal, Perhaps the search for permanence lies not only in societies, but in the fabric of reality itself. Perhaps what endures is not the flame, but the stage on which it burns. You rest within the idea of time, and it expands around you like a vast horizon. Your heart beats in seconds. Your life unfolds in decades, but the universe measures in billions of years. This scale feels too immense to hold, yet it surrounds you, shaping every star, every planet, every chance for life. You are a brief flame in a story that stretches across unimaginable distances of time. Imagine a river flowing without end. Its waters move slowly, yet steadily, carrying fragments of stone, seeds of trees, echoes of storms, to the river. A century is only a ripple. To you, it would be a lifetime. The cosmic time scale is this river, stretching not through landscapes, but through eras, carrying galaxies in its current. On Earth, you see time through the growth of forests, the erosion of mountains, the drift of continents. Even these seem immense. Yet compared to the universe, they are short phrases in a long song. The Himalayas, towering and eternal to the eye, will erode into plains. The oceans will shift and vanish, and still, the stars will shine far longer than those earthly transformations. Your body is tuned to a human rhythm, the turning of days, the passing of seasons, the span of a single lifetime. You measure years as you measure breaths, but in the sky, stars are born, live, and die across timescales that dwarf imagination. Some burn for only millions of years, ending in spectacular explosions. Others, like red dwarfs, may live for trillions of years, shining faintly long after the last great galaxies fade. This difference in scale matters deeply to the question of other civilizations. When you search for voices among the stars, you must remember, your listening happens in a sliver of cosmic time. Perhaps others have spoken, but their words faded before your kind learned to listen. Perhaps others will speak long after your own civilization has gone silent. The universe is vast, but so too is its patience. It may be that civilizations rarely overlap in their lifetimes. Consider Earth's own history. For billions of years, the planet hosted life, but none of it built radios. None sent messages into space. Only in the last heartbeat of geological time has your species reached for the stars. If other worlds follow similar paths, then the chance of alignment, two civilizations alive at once, listening and speaking, may be small. The silence you hear may not be emptiness, but misalignment. Like two travelers walking the same road at different centuries, this thought humbles you. It reminds you that your impatience is shaped by your short perspective. A century feels long, but in cosmic terms, it is less than the blink of an eye. You may wait for thousands of years and still not catch the brief overlap of another civilization's song. The timescale itself may be the barrier, and yet this same scale opens new possibilities. Because if the universe endures so long, then the stage for life remains open. Civilizations may come and go, rise and fall, but there is always more time for new beginnings. Perhaps countless others have already lived, their stories forgotten in the river of time. Perhaps countless others are still to come, their light not yet kindled. You picture a night sky filled with stars at different stages of their lives. Some are young, only now igniting. Some are middle-aged, steady and warm. Or some are old, nearing collapse. Civilizations, too, may mirror this pattern. Some just beginning, some enduring, some already gone. The time scale of the universe allows for this endless layering, this tapestry of possibility stretched across eons. The patience of time also changes how you view your own life. You are fleeting, yes, but you are also part of something that continues. Your atoms come from stars that lived and died long before you. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you breathe, all are gifts from ancient suns. You carry the memory of the cosmos within your body, and when your time ends, those atoms will return to the flow, to be used again, perhaps in another life, perhaps in another world. This cycle is one of the universe's most profound truths. Nothing is wasted. The time scale allows for recycling on a level beyond imagination. Stars give birth, die, and scatter their elements. Planets form from that dust. Life emerges, thrives, and returns to the soil over and over, across billions of years. The pattern repeats. Civilizations are one expression of this cycle, rising from the dust of stars, returning to it, and perhaps rising again elsewhere. You realize that the brevity of human life does not diminish it. If anything, it sharpens it. A star may burn for billions of years, but it does not know it burns. You, in your short span, are aware of your existence. You marvel, you wonder, you question. This awareness is your gift, even if it lasts only for a moment in cosmic time. So you imagine yourself within the flow of the river. You are a single ripple, brief and fragile, but part of the larger current. You are carried by something older than stars and destined to last far beyond them. The time scale stretches around you, and though it humbles you, it also comforts you. For in this endlessness, there is room for everything, for beginnings, endings, and beginnings again, perhaps, far away. Civilizations existed millions of years ago. Perhaps their ruins now lie beneath alien skies, unvisited, unremembered. Perhaps others will rise millions of years in the future, their voices carrying across the stars. You may never meet them, but you are still connected through the shared stage of time itself. The river carries you all, even if you never see each other. The patience of the universe can be hard to accept. You long for answers now, for voices now, for certainty now. But the cosmic timescale asks you to trust in something larger. It asks you to understand that absence is not emptiness. It may only be a pause, a gap between verses in an endless song. Your mind rests on this thought as though on a shoreline. You imagine civilizations as waves rising and falling, but the ocean itself endures. The timescale is the ocean. It holds more stories than can ever be told, more possibilities than can ever be counted. You are part of it, carried forward, whether you notice or not. This vision settles. Within you, it tells you that the universe is not in a hurry. Stars will keep burning. New worlds will keep forming. The river will keep flowing, and somewhere within it all, there will always be room for life, for thought, for wonder. You breathe with this awareness, feeling the stretch of time as both vast and intimate. The cosmic timescale is not only something distant, it is within you. Every atom of your being is a traveler through billions of years. You are not apart from the river. You are part of its endless journey. And as you drift deeper into this awareness, another question begins to stir. If time is so vast, and if civilizations may rise and fall across its endless current, what shapes whether they endure? What forces decide if a flame burns for only a moment, or for ages beyond counting? You imagine space not as silence, but as a sea filled with invisible threads. Waves of energy flow outward from stars, from planets, from storms of plasma and lightning. Some are natural, born from the restless movement of the cosmos. Some could, in theory, be crafted by hands or minds reaching outward. You cannot hear them with your ears, but you can picture them, drifting endlessly, like ripples, across a boundless ocean. On Earth, there are instruments built to catch these ripples. They look not like ears, but like vast bowls of metal, curved and patient, their faces tilted toward the sky. These radio telescopes do not listen in the way you listen to a friend. They turn starlight into patterns, waves into numbers, static into meaning. What to you would be silence becomes, through them, a language waiting to be read. You think of the first moments when this listening began. In the mid-20th century, as radio technology grew, astronomers wondered, if we can send signals across oceans on Earth, might others send signals across the stars? The idea was both bold and simple. If a civilization wished to be known, the most practical way might be through radio waves, traveling at the speed of light, slipping through dust, carrying a message across unimaginable distances. So scientists began to listen, not with expectation of immediate discovery, but with the patience of gardeners planting seeds. For decades, antennas swept across constellations, catching whispers of hydrogen clouds, emissions from pulsars, bursts from quasars. Most signals turned out to be natural, beautiful in their own right, but none unmistakably artificial. The sky spoke, but not in a voice you could claim as another's greeting. Still, the act of listening mattered. It was not only about finding someone, it was about holding a posture of openness, saying, "We are here, and we wonder." Listening became a kind of philosophy, a discipline of patience. Each night of scanning reaffirmed the belief that the universe might still surprise you. You picture the data streams flowing from these instruments, lines across computer screens, points of light in graphs, bursts of numbers. To most eyes, it looks like static, but to a trained observer, hidden patterns might emerge, a steady pulse, too regular for nature, a frequency tuned with precision. These would be signs of intention, signs of thought. And so the astronomers wait, sifting through static, as though searching for a single voice in a chorus of stars. The scale of the search humbles you. The galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, each perhaps with planets. Some of those planets, perhaps, with oceans, forests, or machines. Yet, at any moment, your species listens to only a narrow slice, a few stars at a time, a few frequencies at a time. The effort is like placing a seashell to your ear and hoping to hear not only the ocean, but a word spoken from across the world. This smallness could feel discouraging, but instead it adds to the beauty. For what matters most may not be the outcome, but the devotion. The listening itself becomes an act of hope, a ritual repeated across decades, across generations. It is humanity pausing, looking up, and admitting, we are not only makers of noise, we are seekers of harmony. You reflect on how listening shapes you personally. When you listen to the sky, you also listen to yourself. You notice the desires hidden beneath the search, the longing not to be alone, the wish to share existence with another mind, even without receiving a signal. The process reveals something. The depth of your own yearning, the way wonder is stitched into you. The sky answers in its own way, even if not with voices. It offers you pulsars, spinning stars whose beams sweep space like cosmic lighthouses. It gives you quasars, powered by black holes shining across billions of light years. It fills your instruments with patterns that remind you the universe is alive with activity, with movement, with drama. Perhaps these are not messages, but they are reminders that silence is never truly empty. And then you imagine, what if, someday, among all this static, there appears a signal unmistakably crafted? What if, across the noise, you catch a rhythm too deliberate, a pulse too perfect, a sequence carrying meaning? Would it be a greeting, a beacon, a simple declaration? We are here. Even if the words could not be deciphered, the fact of their existence would change everything. It would mean the universe had spoken back. This possibility lingers in your mind like a half-remembered dream. It does not matter that it has not yet happened. The very act of listening keeps the door open, and perhaps that is enough. To live in a universe where the question can still be asked, where the ear is still pressed to the sky, where the possibility remains alive. You return to the image of waves moving outward, crossing the stars. Some are human, carrying songs, greetings, even television shows unintentionally spilled into space. These signals spread like expanding circles in water, growing fainter with distance, but never entirely gone. You realize that humanity, too, has already joined the cosmic chorus, even if no one else is there to hear. You are both listener and sender, both ear and voice. This dual role gives a sense of belonging. You are not outside the story, waiting for others to write it. You are inside it, shaping it, contributing your own faint whispers to the fabric of space. Whether or not anyone answers, you have declared your presence. You have said, in your own way, that you were here, that you wondered, that you reached beyond yourself. And so, as you picture the radio telescopes turning, scanning, listening, you feel the calmness of the act itself. It is not impatient, not desperate. It is steady, like breathing, like watching the tide. It is a reminder that hope can be practiced, not only felt. Each night of listening is a vow to remain open, to remain curious, to remain connected to the greater sky. The act continues. The signals flow. The sky holds its mysteries. And you, listening along, realize that the next question is not only about hearing, but about being heard. When you picture beings beyond Earth, you often start with a question. What would they look like? Would they have faces, eyes, hands that reach? Or would they be forms so unfamiliar that no imagination could prepare you? This question feels vast, but beneath it lies another, quieter one. What do you mean when you ask about others? In imagining the alien, you inevitably turn back to the human. For, in truth, your first model for intelligence is yourself. When you search for another mind among the stars, you are also asking what it means to be a mind at all. What does it mean to notice the world, to shape it, to dream of more than survival? What does it mean to wonder about the beyond? These are questions you cast outward, yet they circle back to you like echoes. You think about the long journey of your own species. For most of history, humanity's gaze was fixed downward, on the soil, the rivers, the animals nearby. Only later did you lift your eyes, noticing the motions of the sun, the phases of the moon, the slow drift of constellations. From those first observations came calendars, navigation, myth, and eventually science. Each step in knowledge was a step in self-recognition. We are creatures who watch, who measure, who seek meaning. The mirror of aliens reflects this truth back to you. When you wonder if others exist, you are not only asking about the universe, you are asking, are we unique or are we one of many? If life is common, then perhaps we are part of a vast chorus. If life is rare, then our presence here carries an even deeper weight. Both answers would reshape how you understand yourself. You pause to imagine the possibilities. Suppose the galaxy teems with civilizations. Some may be older than your species, with wisdom shaped by millions of years. Some may be younger, just beginning to lift their gaze to the stars. If they exist, then humanity is not the sole storyteller of consciousness. We are one verse in a larger song. But suppose instead that life is scarce and intelligence scarcer still. Then this planet, with its forests, oceans, and fragile minds, may be among the rarest of jewels in cosmic time. In that case, to be human is to carry a responsibility to keep alive the flame of awareness in a universe that might otherwise be silent. Even without meeting another, this reflection sharpens your sense of who you are. A bearer of thought, a fleeting witness in a cosmos vast beyond measure. This mirror also reveals fragility. You think about how icily civilizations rise and fall, how ideas, once brilliant, can vanish when not carried forward. If intelligence is precious, then so too is its survival. And when you imagine alien civilizations, you cannot help but wonder if they too faced their own precarious thresholds, moments when their future hung by a thread, as yours sometimes does. It is not only fragility that you see, you also notice creativity, the drive to transform the world. You imagine that if another species reached across the stars, it would be because it shared something with you. The urge to explore, to express, to connect. This recognition feels like kinship even before any meeting. For what you project onto them is also what you value in yourself. In this way, the search for others becomes a search for your own reflection. When you draw pictures of what aliens might be, you reveal what you hope for and what you fear. You hope for wisdom, for harmony, for beings who surpass your conflicts. You fear hostility, misunderstanding, the possibility that intelligence does not always bring compassion. These hopes and fears, though directed outward, are really portraits of your inner life. Science, too, becomes a mirror. The instruments that scan the skies, the theories that imagine habitable worlds, the calculations of probability, all of these are expressions of a mind curious about itself. By asking whether life arises elsewhere, you confront the question, of why it arose here. What conditions made you possible? What makes awareness bloom from matter, like a flower from soil? Each equation, each telescope, each searchlight aimed at the heavens is also a reflection of the human urge to understand. The human, even culture, carries this reflection. Stories of alien contact, whether in myths or modern fiction, often reveal more about humanity than about the unknown. Some tales imagine others as saviors, arriving to guide us. Some picture them as threats, mirroring our own history of conquest and fear. Some depict them as incomprehensible, beyond our categories. In every case, the alien is a canvas, and on it we paint our dreams, our anxieties, our longings. You begin to see that the mirror works in layers. At the surface, it reflects biology, what counts as life, what forms it might take. Deeper down, it reflects psychology, what intelligence feels like, what consciousness means. And deeper still, it reflects philosophy, what it means to be part of a universe that can both create and question itself. The alien is not only out there, it is also a way of looking inward. This realization carries both comfort and mystery. On one hand, you recognize yourself more clearly. On the other, you sense how much remains unknown. The mirror does not give you final answers, only images that shift as you move, as your culture changes, as your science grows. Perhaps that is its true gift, not to settle the question, but to keep you asking it, to keep you turning both outward and inward at once. You let your mind drift to a possible encounter. What would it mean if one day you truly heard from another civilization? Would it confirm what you already suspected about yourself? Or would it reveal something entirely new? Perhaps the greatest surprise would be how much of yourself you would see reflected in them, and how much of them you would discover reflected in you. The thought lingers, soft and unresolved. You realize that even if you never meet another, the act of wondering has already reshaped you. The mirror has done its work by showing you the contours of your own intelligence, your own fragility, your own longing, and as you hold that reflection, you feel the next question rising. If we seek ourselves in the mirror of others, what would it mean to finally stand face to face? You sit with the question that has followed you across chapters, across centuries of thought. Are we alone, or is the cosmos full of companions whose faces we cannot yet see? The mirror of yourself has shown you much, yet it does not answer. It leaves you suspended, as though resting on the edge of an ocean whose depths you cannot measure. Unknowing can feel unsettling. You are used to seeking answers, to tying threads together. Yet here, in this vastness, there is no final reply. There is only a horizon that stretches without end, its distance unreachable, its silence profound. Still, there is beauty in the question itself. To not know is also to remain open. To not know is to allow possibility to breathe. The unknown does not close your story. It keeps it alive, expanding outward with every heartbeat, every gaze into the night. Consider the earth beneath you. Once, it too was wrapped in mystery. Long before maps, sailors sailed with only stars as guides, believing in edges where ships might fall. Long before science, storms were read as omens, lightning as voices of gods. What seemed unknowable then is now woven into understanding. And so it may be with this larger question. not answered in a single lifetime, but carried forward, like a torch through time. You recall that even science begins in unknowing. A scientist does not start with certainty. They start with wonder. They look into the dark and admit, "I do not know." Then they ask and test and ask again. Each answer raises more questions, as though the unknown retreats but never disappears, inviting endless pursuit. This unknowing is not empty. It is alive with potential, like a seed not yet sprouted. Within it lies every possibility: life abundant, life rare, or something beyond life as you understand it. To hold uncertainty is to hold all possibilities at once, like carrying the whole night sky inside your chest. You may wonder why the silence endures, why no message, no signal, no clear sign. Some call it the great silence, others the great mystery. Perhaps civilizations are distant, separated by light years that swallow voices before they can arrive. Perhaps they are brief, appearing and vanishing before the chance to speak. Or perhaps we are early, the first flicker of awareness in a universe still awakening. Each possibility bends your imagination in a different direction. If others exist and we have not heard them, perhaps communication is not as simple as sending words. Perhaps thought itself takes forms we cannot yet conceive. If others do not exist, then this planet becomes even more precious, a single island of mind in an ocean of matter. The silence itself becomes a teacher, reminding you that not every absence is emptiness. Sometimes absence is invitation. In the stillness, you notice your own small place. Your breath becomes a tide, rising and falling in rhythm with thoughts of galaxies, nebulae, and time beyond reckoning. You are small, but your smallness does not diminish you. Instead, it links you to everything else. Atoms born in stars, molecules shaped by oceans, consciousness woven from chance and necessity. Even without final answers, this connection is real. You are already part of the story, whether others share it or not. Think of the child who looks up at the stars for the first time. They do not need an answer to feel wonder. The stars themselves are enough, glowing in their silence. In this way, unknowing is not a void, but a presence. It allows you to see, to dream, to ask, and to live with the beauty of unfinished thought. And when you imagine the future, you see that unknowing will remain. Even if one day we hear a signal, new questions will follow. Who are they? What do they value? How do they see us? Even if we discover life in a hidden ocean, on a moon, or a distant world, the mystery will deepen. How far does life extend? How many forms can it take? The unknown does not vanish with answers. It evolves. It is infinite as the stars themselves, so you rest in it. You let the uncertainty become like the night sky, wide, enveloping, shimmering with possibilities. Instead of fearing its silence, you lean into its embrace. The unknowing does not diminish you. It allows you to belong to a cosmos still in the midst of revealing itself. You close your eyes and drift between thought and dream. You sense civilizations imagined, some distant, some near. You sense oceans of planets, their surfaces untouched, their skies waiting for eyes to see them. You sense futures not yet written, carried in the hands of generations to come. All of it remains unfinished, and that is its beauty. Perhaps you think the search itself is the answer. Perhaps to be human is to live within questions that have no final resolution. The act of asking binds you to the universe, to time, to every other seeker who has ever looked up. In that way, you are never alone. The question itself is your companion, walking with you through the corridors of the night. Your mind drifts one last time to the stars. Each one burns with light that began long before you were born, light that will continue long after. They shine without demanding that you solve them. They shine because that is what stars do, and you, too, can rest without needing all the answers. The mystery remains. It does not trouble you now. It feels like a lullaby, humming across space and time. And in that song of uncertainty, you find rest. The night holds its silence. You breathe, you dream, you let go. And as sleep arrives, the question remains. A question not of fear, but of wonder, awaiting the dawn of another chapter in the story of knowing.